Hi, I'm Magee. Make sure to join us this season on Braves Country Radio. We're bringing you well over 300 ball games, play-by-play, watch party style. We'll bring you the call. You can jump in and join the fun with the rest of the crowd. Talking the game, comments and questions are always welcome. That's Braves Country Radio. Every single Atlanta Braves ball game, over 50 out-of-town games built into our doubleheaders each week, along with even more college football and the NFL for 2026. Once again, we'll bring you all of October. It all gets rolling with our WBC Spring Training and Caribbean Series play-by-play in February and March. We'll see you there on the BCR. You're listening to WQVZ, 1700 AM Mission Radio.
For me and the Lord, we got to understand we're on a mission from God.
Your home for Braves Country Radio. YouTube.com/@Braves Country. Good morning, y'all. How you doing, Doug?
Doing good.
I don't think Bobby's going to make it today. He's a little bit under the weather, and we'll just leave it at that. But we will give you our picks today. We're going to go over some of the stuff going on in the world of football as, man, not to mention, you know what, Doug, since Bobby's not here and you're a baseball guy like I am, let's go ahead and react to some of this crap that's going on. Bellinger goes to the Yankees, 5 years, 162. The Mets go out and they get Freddie Peralta in a trade. Not to mention all the other moves that the Mets have been adding. I mean, they have been busy this offseason. Well, they've been busy the last couple of weeks. Prior to about 2 weeks ago, the Mets had kind of been quiet. What's your take on what's going on?
Mets are just trying to load up for another season. I mean, I'm surprised with the Peralta one because I thought he'd just be going. I was hoping he'd go off to the Dodgers and see you later, but no, it's an arms race, and the Mets are willing to pay.
Yeah, it's to me, it's a little wild. Well, first of all, that it took them quite a bit of ways to get going. And that's kind of what happens when you have an owner with deep pockets, because what you get in that situation is you get a guy who can come in and outbid people at the last minute, right? Mm-hmm. So they come in and it's last second kind of thing, but they start adding guys like now. So let's unpack a couple of the moves that the Mets have made. Now, obviously, the Dodgers go out, and I don't think we've been on the air since the Dodgers went out and got Kyle Tucker. Overpaid for him. Well overpaid for him. $60 million a year, that guy is not worth, okay? But when you're the LA Dodgers, you can afford to overpay.
Uh-huh.
And we were talking about this off air just before we came on, but when they end up going into a strike in next offseason or a lockout, however you want to word it, doesn't really matter. It just means the two sides are not coming to an agreement. You can point the finger directly at the Dodgers and kind of start angling it towards the Mets as well, because you can't have an entire league of two halves and the rest of them are have-nots. And it's strange that we're saying this with the Yankees not being involved, but the Yankees have actually been spending modestly compared to the other two clubs, right?
Yep.
So the Mets go, and so after they had the Kyle Tucker $60 million a year, and just in comparison, I know the deal's a couple of years old, but Aaron Judge is making $40 million a year. So obviously all these guys are overpaid. We get that. I'm not going to get bogged down into that nonsense, because the market dictates what someone's worth in a capitalist society, and in an era where the dollar is not spending as well as it did, we'll say 7 years ago, right? It's a little off kilt when you see these numbers, but you also realize that these numbers are only here because people are watching the sport and the television is willing to pay it. But the idea that Bellinger is worth 150% of what Aaron Judge is worth is just astronomically insane. And they got a 4-year deal, $240 million. And I'm not here to bash Tucker for getting his money, but he's not worth $240 million. The Cubs found that out, right?
Uh-huh.
But what he does do is he gives them one hell of an option going into the 2026 season as a left fielder, as opposed to an also ran like a Chris Taylor or something sitting out there in left field. So even though he's not worth the $60 million, he really upgrades that offense, right?
Yes.
So this is why we're going to end up with the lockout, with the strike, is because of this kind of nonsense where the Dodgers, they're just spending willy-nilly. But put that aside, we'll deal with that in the offseason. Right now, what it matters is how this helps the Dodgers. And then you look at the Mets and the additions they've made. They put Bichette at third. Supposedly, and you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I'm glad he ended up in New York, because supposedly the Phillies thought that they were about to land him 11th hour. And then the Mets came in with an offer of 3 years, 120, so paying him $40 million a year. The offer that the Phillies had, it was a longer deal, but the AAV was much lower. I believe it was a 5-year deal, and I want to say it was around the 150 range. So this way, he makes out like a bandit getting 40 plus. Is Bo Bichette worth that? I mean, come on, Bo Bichette had a good year last year. Don't get me wrong, but Bo Bichette, the year before, they were wondering if they'd made the wrong choice, right? If they had, because there was talks about Bichette getting traded going in this time last year. We were talking about whether or not Bo Bichette was going to get traded.
Right. Yeah.
He was going to be a free agent, and evidently Toronto should have traded him because they got nothing in return except they'll get a compensatory pick, but whoop-de-doo, that'll pay dividends maybe in 7 years. So you got that. And let's remember that the Mets have already added at second base. They added Marcus Semien. They got Polanco free agency. What was that? 2 years, $40 million, somewhere in that neighborhood.
I think. 240.
And they're projecting him at probably at DH with Beatty at first, or you could put Polanco at first and Beatty in the left field is the consensus. But the Mets have brought in a ton of offense, and then last night they go and they get Freddie Peralta, and he was by far the best guy out there via trade market. Not named Tarek Skubal. I think it would take an absolute lion's haul to bring in Tarek Skubal. So where do you think this puts the Mets pitching staff? Because prior to adding him, I'll be honest with you, I did not think that they had that great of a pitching staff, but you add Freddie Peralta to it, and maybe McLean doesn't have a sophomore slump. Who knows? But they gave up Sproat, and I know he's a big prospect, but honestly, I think he was the worst other prospects. So where do you think this puts the Mets?
From a pitching position, Peralta sticking right in, it makes them defensively better. But the one thing, I'm looking at all these picks that they made, and the Mets notoriously, historically, they go out and buy these players and they never congeal, they never work out. They come out, they spend all this money, and they still end up not making the playoffs in the past. So I wouldn't exactly put a lot of, we'll see, because all these players, the Mets are notorious in the past for bringing in these high priced players, and they don't work out.
So right now, if we're looking at the Mets rotation, and they have added Devin Williams, and I think we kind of forget that they added Luke Weaver to the Hall this year, to the bullpen. But he does. I will say this: Luke Weaver does have some question marks.
Oh,
he was really good in New York 2 years ago, but last year in New York, I'm talking about with the Yankees, he was meh at best, right?
Uh-huh.
But you look at the rotation this year, and I would tend to think you're going to get Kodai Senga, obviously Peralta. Who's the one? Who's the two? You can argue that back and forth. My feeling is that it's Peralta and then Senga, right? On opening day, I don't have their schedule in front of me, but if they're at home, they're probably going to start Peralta just to get the fans jazzed up, right?
Yeah.
You got Clay Holmes that you can bring him back in the rotation, or you could, if you add him to the bullpen, then your bullpen gets a little deeper, right? Because if you have Holmes and you have Weaver going into Devin Williams, you might have something there. Now, AJ Minter's still expected to miss the beginning of the year this year.
Right.
Now, whether or not he's how long, I don't know, but as of right now, he's supposed to miss the beginning of the year. So opening day, you don't expect him to be on the roster. He had some miracle potions. David Peterson, I would think, comes back into the rotation. I don't think they're going to move him, even though there was a lot of questions about that. You wonder about Christian Scott. Can Christian Scott make any kind of a dent this year? Of course, he had the injury from while back, so I don't know when he's going to be ready. I don't believe he's expected to be. He's on the 40-man rotation, 40-man roster right now, but I don't think he's going to be ready for opening day. And then you've got a couple other names out there that. So in that trade, they also went out and got Tobias Myers, right? And you're a big Reds fan, so you got to see quite a bit of the Brewers. What can you tell us on Tobias Myers?
Tobias Myers, he's hit and miss. He's brilliant 1 second, and he's easy to hit against the next. So per game, you never know what you're going to get with him. I mean, he was average. I think he's average at best. I mean, he's solid, but he's nothing to be afraid of overall.
He's really more of an addition to their bullpen, but I would think he's front end, not back end, right?
Yeah, no, he's definitely front end. But
5.5 ERA last year, 1.36 WHIP, like you said, that's kind of middle of the road. 50 innings, 25. It is interesting that 50 innings last year in 22 games. That's telling you that when he comes in, it's normally multiple innings, right?
Yes.
So, but then if you fill out the Mets roster, McLean's obviously going to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about Peterson. We've already talked about the two big dogs, which is Senga and Peralta. And then their number 5 starter, you got to figure is probably Sean Manaea, assuming that he's good to go to start the year. It's a much better, well-rounded roster than what they had, I mean, just a week and a half ago. My biggest question will be with them is what that bullpen will be like. But other than that, I think they're going to be very Philadelphia Philly-like, in which they are going to have a very good starting rotation, a very good offense, and the question mark is going to be the bullpen.
Well, the thing with that rotation, the two questions I have with it, with like Kodai Senga, can he get his walk rate down? Because he was horrible last year. He's got a lot of mechanics he needs to work on before I would be confident in as being a consistent, part of that rotation. And the thing is, I was thinking about Luke Weaver. When he was a Red, He was horrible. I mean, he was literally walked out of the ballpark and fired on the spot and given his paycheck and told goodbye. He was horrible with us, so I can't see Luke Weaver scaring too many people either. Those are the only caveats I have as far as what the Mets have done.
And of course, you're probably thinking more of Luke Weaver that was in Cincinnati where he was like this, right?
Yes.
And with the Yankees, he was phenomenal in 2024. Once again, last year. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that they brought Devin Williams in to be the closer. And it never gelled. Now, ironically, both of them go from the Yankees to the Mets, and you got the same situation where Weaver's not your closer. He's going to be the setup man. And some guys just aren't built for that, right? Some guys, they don't lock in as well if the game isn't on the line. We'll see how it figures out in year 2 for Weaver. I mean, they paid him a pretty hefty sum. I believe it was 2 years, 22, I think is what the number was. I don't have it in front of me. But the Mets also added Luis Robert. He'll be in center field. He's a big hit or miss. I mean, he is a guy that a couple of years ago, you get Luis Robert, you're dancing in the street. Now, he is a guy that is going to be 29 years old this year. And you look at the last couple of seasons, he's batted 224 and 223 respectively. He has, see how many games has he played? 210 total games in those 2 years and has 28 home runs. So what you're expecting is a guy to hit somewhere around 225 and maybe 20 home runs. And that's not nothing, but that's not going to exactly light the world on fire. Their hope is they're going to put him in a much better lineup in New York, and he'll be surrounded by bats, and he will see better pitches, right?
Right.
And then, of course, the other thing that he has that other guys don't is that he does have the stolen base. He stole 33 last year, 23 the year before, 20 before that. So he is a stolen base threat if he gets on. His biggest issue the last few years has been getting on. See, 2023, that's the year that everybody points to where he batted 264 and 38 home runs. But big picture, that's kind of an outlier. The rest of his career, now 2020 set that aside because they only played 50. He was only had 56 games because of the pandemic. So we'll put that one aside. But 2021, 13 home runs. 2022, 12. Then he had the big explosion in 23 with 38, and then back to 14 and 14.
Hampered by injury too. So that's the other question. What point does he injured and miss a third of the season again?
Right. But all in all, fairly healthy because outside of the 2023 year, 380, 393, and 382 are his at-bats. But I believe if memory serves me correct, he got hurt at the end of 21 and came in well into 22, which is why he had 275 at-bats in 21, 380 and 22 because it was like a loop around on the two calendars.
Right.
But we'll obviously go more into depth about what this means for the Braves. I still think, and maybe this is just me seeing it with the Braves colored glasses on, I still think we have just as much a chance of winning that division as the Mets and Phillies do. Because the Braves, for all intents and purposes, their offense didn't exist last year.
Well, you were destroyed by injury, killed you last year.
Right. But now the offense, that just sucked because we sucked, right? That I can't blame that on injury. The offense sucked the first half of the year because we did terribly. Now the offense finally started getting going after the All-Star break, but by then the season was over. And by then the pitching staff was decimated, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
But when I look at what the Braves are going to have, and just as many question marks as all these other teams have, is that the Braves during that same time period, they have loaded up. The biggest question mark that you're going to have with the Phillies and the Mets is how good is that bullpen? I think that's the number one strength of the Braves. Our biggest question is, what are we going to get out of our pitching staff this year, our starting pitching staff, after getting crushed by injuries? What are you going to get out of Schwellenbach? Is Strider going to be Strider again? one more year on Chris Sale. How does he age, right? And then the other big question mark, probably the biggest question mark, is Ronaldo Lopez. Does he stay in the rotation all year, or is he a guy that ends up in the bullpen at some point? Because did those innings that they put on him in 2024, did that wreck his arm? Joe Jimenez won't be there until probably midway through the season, maybe at the beginning of the season, but we'll see how long it takes for them to get him ramped up. But when they get this bullpen rocking and rolling, we're talking about 3 pretty good lefties coming out of the pen. Bless you, sir.
Thank you.
When you're talking about Joey Wentz is back, so he's a guy that can go either from the starting rotation into the bullpen. I think he's more likely suited for long work in the bullpen and a very big piece that you can use. And then, of course, you've got Dylan Lee and you've got Aaron Bummer coming back. But then the big strength is going to be the fact that Iglesias seemed to be back by the end of the year. He looked really good. And then they bring in Suarez, and that's a good 1-2 punch. And eventually you get Jimenez, whether there's skepticism that he could be there for opening day, but I don't know because how much rust is there, right? Because we didn't see – they expected him back by the end of last year, and we never saw it, right? So we hoped – so if that's the 1-2-3 punch from the right side, you got Dylan Lee from the left side, and you will have Bummer in – he's more suited for 6th, 7th inning. We were trying to squeeze him into the 8th because of the injuries. But what are we going to get out of Schwellenbach? What are we going to get out of Raylo? I still think
Schwellenbach, I'm looking for a lot from him this year. Just a little sneak peek in my fantasy ratings already for Schwellenbach is somebody I will pursue in any of my fantasy leagues. I think he'll have a really comeback great year this year.
I hope so. The biggest thing that concerned me was that Schwellenbach said that the reason why he got hurt is he felt like it was because he was trying to add velocity. Does he ramp that back? And if he ramps that back, if his velocity's down a tick or two, does that hurt his effectiveness, right? Because one of the reasons why he was so damn effective was that he was sizzling up there 96, 97 miles an hour. If he's dropping down about 94, 95, that's a much different Schwellenbach. And though I think he can still be good, but like you're talking about the fantasy ratings, is he top tier good, or does he get pushed much further down? And I guess
I was thinking from a middle tier, but as far as contribution to what the Braves are going to do this year, I think he's going to be a lot more effective. He's a lot more effective than people project him to be.
Yeah, I would hope that. Well, I will say this: by the time you go to draft, you have a pretty good idea because he will be ramped up for the start of the season. He is expected to be in the rotation at the beginning of the season, so I would hope that we get a good look at him in spring. But you just spring training baseball is so difficult to decipher. Though I get excited and I want to see these guys, you can't always say that 100% absolutely that what you see in spring training is going to reflect how the season is going to go. All right, let's go ahead and transition into the world of football. We just want to get a little baseball talk in here as we're getting ramped up and ready for it. I still say this, Braves fans. Atlanta's going to add one more starter via free agency. I thought maybe trade because I honestly was hoping that they were in on the Peralta. Something tells me they weren't willing to give up what the Mets gave up. So any kind of rumor you heard about Peralta to the Braves was probably fool's gold. The Brewers got a haul back, but I still think it's a very good trade for the Mets. All right, let's go ahead and get into our NFL picks. Doug's going to end up winning the stupid underdog pick. Barely. I'll tell you what, man, if Miami ends up winning that thing, I end up catching you. If the Hurricanes ended up winning that national title, I was going to catch you. But I'm much happier not winning that for – thank God the Hurricanes are dead again. And Survivor pick, I ended up winning that. Bobby had the Bills. I had the Patriots. And so I ended up taking that championship home. We'll get all the picks figured out by the end of our we got one more show left. It'll be Super Bowl week. Super Bowl week, we will do a show on that Thursday, and that'll wrap us as far as football goes. But let's go ahead and get into our picks. Let's see here. We got As Was and we got Daniel in here. Good to see you this morning. As Was says, go Seminoles. That's right. By the way, As Was, if you get a chance, pretty good interview on the new quarterback coming to Florida State, the JUCO transfer Malachi Marshall. I'll figure out the name of the page here in a minute, but they interviewed the guy last night, and he's a pretty impressive guy. But after seeing the tail of the tape, I don't know if you can expect him to be anything for 2026. The kid's 170 pounds, soaking wet, and he's 6'2". Power 4 college football. He's going to have to put on at least 20, 25 pounds to take those hits. But I was impressed by him as a person. As a person. He was, I'll get it figured out before we jump off the air, As Was. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and dive into our picks. So we're going to give you 4 picks here in the NFL, and you can do point spreads against the spread. You can do player props, all that kind of stuff. I went kind of heavily into one game as opposed to the other, but we'll go back and forth. So, Doug, give me your first pick that you're doing for your NFL picks this week.
All right, we got the Patriots and the Broncos. I'm giving the Broncos the 5.5. That's my first bet on that. Now, the reason I give them 5.5 though is because one of the things I was looking up when I was looking at this game.
When you say that, are you trying to say that you're going to take the Broncos plus 4.5, or you're taking the Patriots minus 4.5? Because the line's 4.5.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm taking the Broncos plus 5.5. Is it down to 4.5 now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm still taking it plus 4.5.
Okay.
Taking the Broncos as a home dog. And the reason I'm taking them as a home dog, because in the last 50 years, home dogs that have been plus 4 or more are 11-0 against the spread. So I think the Broncos are going to cover that spread against the Broncos, or the Patriots.
All right. Well, we're going to have our first battle head to head. I am taking the Patriots minus 4.5. I think I think the Patriots are going to roll them. I don't think it's going to be a blowout off the jump. Don't get me wrong on that. Okay. But I think what's going to eventually happen is Stidham's just not going to be able to keep up. Drake May's a much better quarterback. But I'm going to roll off of that and give you a pick off of that I do like for the Broncos. So Stidham, his over-under rushing yards is 13.5. I'm going to take Stidham over 13.5 yards rushing, because first of all, it's not like college football where sacks count against you in the running game, right?
Mm-hmm.
13.5 yards, very, very likely to get caught, because first of all, Stidham is a pretty decent scrambler, and I think they will have design runs for him to try to keep the ball from being in the air as little as possible. Now, you can go the other route. You can take some of the Denver rushing props, but 13.5, really what that means is that one time, they got to be in man defense. Everybody turns their backs, and Stidham takes off, gets a 14-yard gain, and you're gold. That's all you need. So I like Stidham getting over 13.5 yards. What's your next pick?
Let's go. Let's stay with the same game, and let me take the under at 42.5. I think that Broncos defense, I think with both these defenses, the way they play, I think it's going to be a really low-scoring game. I'm looking like, either way, like a 20-13 score, 20-16 score. So give me the under in that Patriots Broncos game too.
I do like that. I'm not making it as one of my picks, but I do like the under because both defenses are pretty good. And if New England gets out to the start that I think they're going to get out to, I think they're going to play really conservative, kind of like what they did with the Texans. Once they got to a lead, any lead in that game, you kind of felt like the Texans weren't going to come back. And the Texans are going to have a big-time conversation in that front office during this offseason. But is C.J. Stroud your guy? Are you going to go C.J. Stroud the rest of the year? Or are you more likely to go ahead and cut your losses and move on from C.J. Stroud? Because he was abysmal.
That was one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a game. That was just, I don't like using this word very, but that was just utterly disgusting what I watched. I thought they were bad against the Steelers, and I thought, well, you can't play that badly 2 weeks in a row. My God, you actually played worse. You were worse.
What's dumbfounding about it is that his first season, C.J. Stroud looked like he was going to be a world beater.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many fantasy football drafts I drafted that bum after his rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like he was going to be one of the best in the league by now, and now we're talking about, will he even have a job in Houston next year? My next pick, I'm going to go with Stevenson of the Patriots. His number to get in his rushing yards is 50.5. I think they're going to lean on him heavily. And I think it's very, very reasonable to believe that Stevenson is going to get that 50.5. We're still getting a lower number for Stevenson because it's still looked at as a split in that backfield with Henderson and Stevenson. But Stevenson has looked much better in the back half of this season. Henderson still just looks like the rookie that he is. I still think he's got tremendous upside long term, but right now it's Stevenson's show, and Mike Vrabel is not going to lean on a rookie that he can't trust in the conference championship game. He is going to try to get that lead, lean on that defense, and pound the rock to Stevenson.
He's definitely going to have to use that run game too, because I think in his mind, because he's going to have to avoid that Broncos pass rush, and the best way, if he can establish the run with Stevenson, and as I always like to say, matriculate down the field, I think that's the game, part of their game plan come Sunday.
What's your next pick?
My next pick is I am taking Matt Stafford with.
Hey, we already got to the other game.
I know, right? Matt Stafford over 35.5 pass attempts in that game. He's been averaging 42 for like the last 7 weeks. So, and I think if the Rams are going to win this game, they're going to have to establish that pass and bombs away against Seattle's defense. Even though that's going to probably be a hard thing, I think he's going to put up at least 35.5, 36 more pass attempts.
I actually like that one a lot. They're not going to be able to run the ball against Seattle.
No, I don't think so either.
You have to try, but it's not going to get done like you said. And eventually, you're going to get down by more than one score, and you're going to have to get out there and start chucking the ball around. So Stafford over 35.5 attempts.
Mm-hmm.
I like that one a lot. What is your last one?
My last one, take Smith and Jigma, at least 6.5 receptions in this game. That Rams defense, especially the backside, is vulnerable. So I could see Smith and Jigma with at least 6.5 catches.
That seems extremely low. It's only 6.5.
Yeah, it was. That was a Hard Rock one.
That's really low. Everything considered, maybe they're factoring in that they believe they're going to blow them out, and they're going to take the air out of the ball. But that seems extremely low. Arguably,
that's why he grabbed it like that.
arguably the best receiver in all of football.
Mm-hmm.
He's, man, if he's not number one, he's at least 1A, 1B. And you know what's crazy about JSN? He has built his resume as arguably the best receiver in football. And I know you could go Puka Nacua if you wanted to, whatever. You're splitting hairs at that point. He's done this with nothing, right? Like his quarterback room has sucked since he's been in the league, and he's still one of the best receivers in football.
Yeah.
Darnold is okay at best. We all know Geno is terrible. And yet JSN has built a hell of a brand for a guy who is arguably the best receiver in football. Can you imagine if he got to anywhere that had any kind of a pulse at a quarterback? Because I will say this, this kind of leads into my final pick. I'm taking Darnold under 235.5 yards passing, because I think they're going to take the air out of the ball. Now, I can still see JSN getting his numbers, right? I can definitely see that. But I don't think it's going to be that easy to get him there, because if they get any kind of a lead, Doug, you better hope that they're throwing the ball to JSN early, because if they get any kind of a lead, it is going to be the Kenneth Walker show. And I guess we found out that Charbonnet is out.
Yes,
He's done, isn't he?
Yep, he's finished.
That's a hell of a blow to what was a really good two-headed monster in that backfield. I don't know what to think of that long term as far as getting to the Super Bowl and whatnot. All right, let's do this. Give me who you think is going to be in the Super Bowl, and then give me who you want to be in the Super Bowl. Go ahead.
All right. I think it will be the Seahawks and the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I really want to see the Rams and the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
So you've got, I honestly think that we're at the same place. So I'm not, there's not even a point in me putting that on the screen. I am pulling for the Rams to face the Patriots because I want an exciting Super Bowl.
Yep.
I'm assuming that you'll be over here for our Super Bowl party once again.
Yep.
I hope that's what we're watching, Doug. I really do.
I agree.
Here, the worst case scenario would be it turns into Denver versus Seattle.
Yeah.
Denver versus anybody. Because if they go up against Seattle, Stidham is going to be an absolute disaster against that defense. And it's going to be much like the Denver Seattle Super Bowl from a few years ago. Well, I guess it's closer to 10 at this point. But when Peyton Manning and company could not get anything done offensively, and the Legion of Boom just crushed them, right? Even if it's the flip, let's say it's Denver versus the Rams, I think they're going to get boat raced. The Rams will go out there and just cut through that defense to it like a hot knife through butter. Instead of will never be able to catch up. Though I give Denver a much better chance if it is the Rams, because that Rams defense has been shoddy at best. If we get New England versus the Patriots, that's going to be fun, because I think we're going to get a shootout, right?
Yep.
But it's probably going to be Patriots versus Seattle. It's probably going to be the Seattle Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. And though I have nothing against them, my biggest fear is that it's going to be a boring Super Bowl. If it ends up being a great Super Bowl, fair enough. I don't care, because I don't have a dog in any of these. I don't care who really wins the Super Bowl. Only thing I care about is that don't let the LA Dodgers win the Super Bowl. That's it. Other than that, I don't have a dog in the hunt, right? Give me a score that so you're saying 20-16 in the Denver game.
Uh-huh.
And you like New England to win?
Yes.
Just not to cover. Give me a score.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to take New England to win that game I'm still saying it's going to go under. I really am. I'm going to say New England wins that game 27-10. Give me a score in the Seattle Rams game.
Ironically, I'm going to say, oh boy, 27-24 Rams.
27-24 Rams. Wow.
Yep. If you look at their, and the only reason I'm saying that, if you look at their point differentials for the last 5 times they've met, it's all within that 3.5 to 4.5 all the time.
Right. And I do. Well, first of all, this is one of the reasons why I like Sam Darnold under. What was the number I gave you? Under 102 and 35.5. Remember the first meeting against the Rams, we had four turnovers.
Yep.
They don't want him to have to touch the ball. Now, it does hurt the fact that you got Kenneth Walker back there by his lonesome. I know that they'll bring guys up from the practice squad, et cetera, et cetera. But as far as guys with big game experience, Kenneth Walker's going to be the man they're going to lean on. I think they're going to play it really close to the vest. What is the over-under that game now? It is 46.5. I'd probably take the under in that game because I think the Seahawks are going to try to take the air out of the ball. Give me the Seahawks to win that game 20, we'll say 23-17. But I'm pulling for the Rams. I really want to see the Rams win. I just don't think it's going to get there. I'm hoping that line, I would have taken, you might have got me to bite on the hook of the Rams, but they're only getting 2.5 right now. I want that line to at least get to 3.
Yeah, that's why I would love for it to go too.
I could see me doing a same game parlay where I buy up a few points and then buy the total down, because nobody likes to root for the under, right? If you're going to take a same game parlay, you're going to bring it down, kind of like what I did with the Miami Indiana game. I took Indiana on the money line and then I bought it down to the over to where it would be a plus 100. I think I ended up with 43.5 was the total. I think it was somewhere in that neighborhood. Not 100% sure. But anyways, I ended up covering. But the New England game, I'm more likely to buy the under just because I just don't see how Stidham's going to move the ball.
You know, I'll defend Stidham, and that's one thing about this point spread. Because Bo Nix not being there, I never thought it was really worth 6 points. I don't think Bo Nix is much better than Jason Stidham, to be honest with you. Remember, they paid Stidham $12 million to stay with him. And you got to also remember, this is the same Stidham that beat the Rams in 22 with the Raiders. So Stidham isn't as bad a quarterback as people. I mean, I'll defend him a little bit that way. He's a solid game manager, and I think he'll do better. I'm not saying he's going to be a star in the game, but I don't think he's going to lose you the game either.
Yeah, I will say this. If anybody's going to get something out of Stidham, it'll be Sean Payton.
Exactly.
But I just don't believe that. I'll say this. I'd rather have Stidham under center than C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
C.J. Stroud's an absolute disaster.
And with him, I hope, because he's coming up into his 5th year where your rookies got to get that big extension. If he thinks he's getting any kind of extension after what we just witnessed, he's got to know he's finished. He's not getting any money. He's got to know that.
What is your walk-off and one big thing as we get out of here today?
My walk-off, see how Drake May, he's been fumbling that ball around in his last couple of games I've seen him. Hopefully he can keep control of the ball. If he starts throwing that ball around, fumbling that ball, New England could be going home instead of going on. My one big thing, I wanted to just quickly talk about the Indiana game. Is it my imagination, or is the Big Ten just become better than the SEC?
Oh, much better. I mean, the SEC hasn't even had anyone in the national title game since what, 2022, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really isn't that. It's really not an argument anymore. Now, I could see the pendulum swinging back, but as far as right now, as we speak, remember something: the SEC only won. The only game that they won of consequence in the postseason this year was the Texas-Michigan game, which is a meaningless game anyways.
Right.
They didn't beat anybody in the playoffs that wasn't themselves.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to just go by the championship game, because to make some kind of argument like the ACC is better than the SEC just because Miami got there is absurd, right?
Right.
That's just a one-off. And not to mention Miami got lucky. They got to play some really bad SEC teams. They played Texas A&M, which is garbage, and Ole Miss played above their skis, right? But all in all, yeah, I would say that the Big Ten is number one with the bullet, and then the SEC is still firm number two, and they can overtake the Big Ten. But right now, you're embarrassing yourself if you try to take the side of, oh, is SEC still the best conference? It's not in football. You can make arguments maybe in other sports, but not in football.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, when the dollar meets, football is the only thing that really matters in college football. And a lot of it has to do with the NIL. The NIL leveled the playing field, and we're starting to see where it all is. My one big thing from this coming weekend, Mike Vrabel, who the Titans never should have fired, is heading back to the Super Bowl. And how do the Titans respond? By hiring Rob Saleh. I told you that guy's a bum, and they bring him in. What the hell are they doing? I know you wanted him as a Raider coach, Doug, but I'm telling you, it's going to be a disaster. It's not that he can't coach defense, and it's not that he's not even a great guy. I think both those are true. He is not a leader of men unless he's drastically changed. And I'm willing to give him a chance, but unless he's drastically changed from his days in New York. I watch that unfold every single day, because back then I was watching Boomer and Geo quite a bit. Oh, by the way, it just popped in my head. It's called Noel Game Day. What is the name of that? Noel Game Day is where you'll see Malachi Marshall. But I will tell you this, unless he has changed, that's going to be a 2 and done. And why you brought Rob Saleh in to try to manage the development of Cam Ward. Saleh is a defensive guy. What the hell are we doing? And I know that they'll go in, they'll get the offensive coordinator, they'll get the quarterback coach. They'll say, oh, well, they'll develop. But the head coach should have been offensive minded, whoever you brought in. They'll be more competitive the next couple of years because that defense will be good. But day in and day out, I did not see a leader in that locker room. All right, let's go ahead and get out of here. We will not be here next week because, well, there's no football next week. But we'll be back to final week of the season for Super Bowl show. Bobby should be back with us. And that one's a fun one because we do all the big prop bets. I mean, we're going to be rolling back and forth with, what color Gatorade and all those fun prop bets. That's always a fun show. And then that'll wrap up our season, and we'll be going straight baseball. Next week, I am doing a Braves Country Today to kind of catch everybody up to speed with Braves Fest taking place next Saturday. So for all you Braves fans, you want to tune in because we should have a pretty decent itinerary already jotted down as far as what we're planning on doing for those that are going, and those that aren't going, just kind of you'll get an idea of what to expect. Y'all have a great one. Doug, good luck, and see you Super Bowl week.
All righty.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's closing time, y'all. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Have a great one. On your way out, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to tip your favorite bartender. We'll see you. I'm Magee, signing off for Braves Country Radio.